So continuing on the data loader part of it, what we're going to do now is, these are the topics we're going to go through. The data import wizard. So we have object specific wizard for accounts, lead, solution, contacts. And then we have the data loader API, which is the bulk API. Then we have data export. And there are some mass tools to delete, transfer records. When I say transfer records, it is ownership and transfer of reassign account teams to new teams. So let's look at this, all of this in detail. So some of the key features of data management in Salesforce. With the object specific import wizard, specific standard objects data can be imported, and some custom objects. With a data loader, you can do insert, export, update, upsert, delete, hard delete. And then you have a data export. So there are limits with each of this. If it up to 50,000 records you can do with import wizard, up to 5 million records you can do with data loader. If it exceeds that, then you need to use the app exchange app third party tools. And there is a mass transfer of ownership or approvals that if you want to do. Now what is the data export? Data can be exported immediately once in a week. Data can be, the entire data or data can be exported, or it can be scheduled weekly, once in 6 days, or on a monthly basis. Once the file is ready, administrator will receive an email and the file is available for 48 hours. One thing that you need to know is when you export the data, and if you have too much of data in your organization, then it will take time and you need to be aware of that. So let's take a look at that part. So if you go to data management in setup, say data export. If you select data export, it will ask you what is the data that you want to, and so you can say like export now or schedule an export. So when you click on export now, it's going to ask you like what are the tables. So this you need to be careful, it will include all the standard and custom objects. So you need to select what you want to send. So this way, suppose I don't say include all data and I just say just for an example, I will select one of our student master database. And say start export. So it's going to ask me so this is going to say your export is currently in progress and you'll get an email. You can also schedule the export. Using the frequency here, once in every month, first of every month, what is the date and what is the period you want it to be scheduled for, and what is the data that you want to select. So this is the data export feature, and this exports the entire data of your, so if you want to do a backup of your org or something before you want to do some major work, this is advisable. Or if you want to do a weekly batch, then again you can specify the data export. Now, if you remember, record IDs, the row IDs of every particular record in Salesforce is very important. The first three characters represent the object and then remain the record ID. Records are 15 or 18 characters. You generally use the 18 character long ID. You need to create a CSV with record ID to be updated. If you want to update some records, what you need to do is you need to see that the records you want to update, the record IDs are there in your Excel. Otherwise, the data will not be updated because it will match right for a foreign key. So you can also be a record can access using record IDs from browser report API formula. 18 character row ID is what you'll always use. So let's take a look here. So if you select some say account or contact, so now let's look at this account record. So as we see, this is the record ID. If you select this 001, the first three is accounts. If you click equal to 001, it's going to give me a list of, let me just show this again. Okay, the mistake that I did was you have to put the 001 or the object prefix before the after the slash, just after the slash, so it will take you to the account. If you say 001, if you say 001, it will take you to the account or let's say leads. Now if I take a select lead, in this case 00Q, so each object has got its own prefix. Well, the most important part is to understand is you are going to use this. Now, if you want to update this record, say Ashwin Bharat's name, right? You will update using this lead ID, this record ID. That's what the record ID we are talking about. Okay. So updating data, you can either upsert. What is an upsert? Upsert will either update the existing record or insert a non-existing record. If the record ID already exists, then the record is updated. If it's matched multiple times, an error is reported. If it finds more than one, you'll get an error. Always when you're loading master detail or related records, always ensure parent records are updated first, then child records, so that the relational integrity is maintained. That you upload the parent records, like say if you want student master and student marks, see, because every time what will happen is the student marks, it will search for the related ID, master detail ID in the child. So if it doesn't find it, then it's going to crib. So you need to first enter the master data and then load the child data. So now like foreign key, what is a foreign key? Foreign key is to identify external systems data as columns are coming in, rows are coming in. What is the key you're going to identify in a Salesforce record as a foreign key so that it matches with the external data and data can be updated, inserted or upset. There are different fields you can mark as external ID. Now if you remember, if you go to the objects, when we create a field, let's edit this object. And if you take the field, say if you, let's say current generator or just an example, you can mark a field as external ID or unique. Yeah. So this will mark it as a foreign key for data coming in. Up to three columns you can mark it as external ID. Like this will allow the unique record identifier. So that's the key we are talking about here. So up to three fields they made available so that can be referred. Import uses this external ID. By default, ID, row ID, record ID, which we saw, is used. External IDs are not case sensitive. So if you use 18 character record IDs, it is not case sensitive. The field is marked as unique. Then it will also see that ABC and ABC will be treated differently. Case sensitivity will be inbuilt. So this is the eligibility of the external ID. What kind of data type can be fit? Email can be fitted as auto number, text. So basically only a few fields can be fit in as an external ID. By default, of course, the ID, row ID is always used as an external ID. So when you import data into Salesforce, you can use either import wizard or data loader. Data loader system fields can also be updated using the data loader one time. One time when you import it into another system, only one time Salesforce allows you. You need to contact Salesforce support for that. Not all standard can be inserted using the import wizard. Records can be imported and matched, as I told you, regarding using either the Salesforce record IDs, external IDs, or names. API based tools can do 50,000. Above that, you need to use data loader. So master detail relationships and all cannot be imported correctly using import wizard. So some of the fields which can be imported are objects or assets, case, accounts. Up to 50,000 you can use import wizard. Above 50,000 you'll have to use data loader. Above that, up to 5 million, and above 5 million you'll have to use app exchange app like Jitterbit. So let's look at a comparison between these are two tools, import wizard up to 50,000, between 50,000 to 5 million. But the advantage of import wizard is you can prevent the workflow rules from running. So suppose if you're importing some data, 50,000, and you got workflows for Salesforce running. You know what is a workflow now, right? It will be triggered on a create edit. So you can prevent that. So you need to, in this case, in data loader, you cannot do, you'll have to go there and disable it. Either you mark it as in a deactivated or give some system setting like we saw yesterday in the previous video. Import wizard cannot be scheduled. Data loader comes with a schedule. Of course, you cannot export or delete with import wizard. You can export and delete with the data loader. Now, data loader is of two types. One is a client based. You can download a 32-bit data loader, or you can use dataloader.io, which is on the cloud. So they have enterprise, which is both basically under the same company, but the data loader is a free tool. The data loader IO will also come with the licenses of Salesforce. You can do a mass delete, standard objects, record types. Suppose you want to do the mass delete of records, you can do that using mass delete option. Data loader can also be used to delete custom or standard objects. Hard delete is, what is the difference? Whenever you delete any record, it remains in the Salesforce recycle bin for 14 days. Okay, so you can do a hard delete to remove the data permanently, immediately. So that you can use using bulk API of data loader. So now let's look at all of this in action. Let's actually set import, export some data, import some data, delete some data, import some data, insert data, update, upsert. And let's use both the tools, both of the tools, import wizard and data loader.